All right, good evening, Hanson. This is the Plastic Bag Polystyrene Ban Forum here at Town Hall at 7 o'clock tonight. If we could all rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So for tonight, I won't be standing at the podium just so that everyone can kind of see the PowerPoint presentation. And I want to say thank you very much for everyone for coming out on a Tuesday night to discuss this possible bylaw, or these two possible bylaws. Also, I want to say thank you very much for Whitman-Hanson Cable Access for coming out and filming this. This is one of their nights off, so thank you very much for coming out. And also, it's a great pleasure to see everyone here partaking in their local democracy, whether you support, you're against it, or you're just here to learn some more. So let's dive in. And for tonight's agenda, I just wanted to give a quick presentation of why we're even having this discussion in the first place. And then before we move into an open forum where you guys will all be allowed to speak, just review the bylaw so we're all on the same terms of what to expect. So we all know plastic bags, but some of you may have questions about what polystyrene is. It's basically styrofoam, just like how Kleenexes are just the brand name of tissue paper. So there's three reasons why we're going for this ban. One is health, because of microplastics and carcinogenics. Environment, the litter and the effects on wildlife, as well as waste issues, because America, not just Hanson, has a huge waste issue coming down the road, and we need to start addressing it. So to get into health a little bit, what happens when these plastic bags, styrofoam cups, or any other plastics end up in the environment? Well, they'll make their way to the ocean, or they'll make their way into the waterways, or just sit there in the environment. And over time, as they do break down very slowly, what happens is microplastics, which is kind of like little tiny particles of sand, start to break off, and they'll start to enter the ecosystem, whether wildlife thinks they're little fish eggs or little bits of bird seed. That all will end up in us as we consume nature. And then also, too, it could end up in the water source that we all drink. And it's not quite evident of what the effects are of microplastics in the human body just yet, just because as this is a recent discovery, there's no long-term studies out there. So that's one reason, is because of our own health. The other is because of the environment. We're starting to see that articles are coming more relevant and coming out more frequently about whales dying because they ate so many pounds of plastic. And sea turtles, as you saw on the first slide, they can't really distinguish the difference between a jellyfish or a plastic bag. So then they'll consume them and then later on have health issues down the road. And then the middle picture of the seagull with a little bit of trash, I said, oh, well, it's just a little bit of trash. You know, it's still a bad thing, but it's not as bad. Then I was reading into the description, and they said the seagull ate a whole plastic bag. And I said, no, this is just clickbait. I ended up clicking on the link and ended up watching a 10-minute video of the seagull eating a plastic bag. It actually consumed a whole plastic bag. I was astounded by that. And then as we all see, litter ends up on our streets. And thanks to the great work of the folks that partake in Clean Up Green Up, which will take place April 27th this year at 9 a.m. here at Town Hall. So come on by and help pick up some litter. And then also waste. Americans use about 100 billion single-use plastic bags each year. And the recycling rate for those are between 3 and 7%. Americans also threw away over 25 billion styrofoam cups. That's about 82 cups per person each year. And these plastics don't necessarily break down overnight. They actually take hundreds and hundreds of years, and styrofoam may not ever break down either. So what does this bylaw mean for Hanson? Well, the first draft that went out was a little bit aggressive. So I just want to clarify that it's only really going to address three major things here in Hanson. So if you go out and you get a cup of coffee in a styrofoam cup, The bylaw simply says it must be served in a paper cup. And if for whatever reason you don't like the paper cup, or you want to be a superhero and help save the planet, you can always use a reusable cup. Secondly, styrofoam containers. If you go out to eat and you take home some food, you will no longer be able to use a styrofoam container. Instead, you can get a nice paper container to take home. Again, if you don't like paper for whatever reason, you can always bring your own Tupperware to the restaurant and take your meal home with you. Thirdly, the plastic bags. So at the point of checkout, you won't be able to get a plastic bag any longer under the new bylaws. Instead, a paper bag with stitched handles, similar to the ones that are at Trader Joe's and formerly at Whole Foods. So that way you can still carry your groceries in if you forget your bags. And there won't be any charge for these plastic bags here in Hanson under these bylaws. And lastly, if you don't like paper bags, you can always bring your reusable bag with you and help save the planet. So this bylaw won't go into effect until July 1st, 2020 of next year, giving plenty of time for businesses to transition into compliance with the bylaw and get rid of their overhead if they have any leftover plastic bags. So the bags that are still available under the bylaw are the plastic bags that you put your meats in or your produce in. You can still get your newspaper wrapped in plastic if you still read the paper, and also dry cleaning as well. So right now, here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, there have been over 95 different communities that have approved, oh, there they are. Okay, they don't appear on my screen. That have been approved in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Some of the local communities here on the South Shore are Abington, Pembroke, Marshfield, Kingston, Duxbury, Halifax, Marshfield, Situate, and many of the communities in the Cape. They've already banned the plastic bags. And 95 other communities here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And for those who don't know how many communities are in the Commonwealth, it's 351. So we're almost a third of the way there. So as I go throughout the town, I always forget my plastic bags. It's just a matter of making a habit. Back in the 90s, we didn't plug in our landlines, but every night now, we're plugging in our own phones for the next day. And it's just a matter of creating a habit. What am I going to use when I walk my dog? Well, you can be creative and use your bread bag, or they actually sell biodegradable bags for $600 for $10 that you can attach to your leash and have it right there with you. Or I use my plastic bags already. Why are you forcing me to switch? Well, try using a reusable bag and saving the planet. And then also for the styrofoam, how am I going to keep my drink hot or cold for longer? Well, you can always bring a thermos that will keep your drink hot for about 12 hours. The technology exists. So let's talk cost, because let's face it, we're all concerned about money these days. What is the cost to the town? Really, there is no cost. Simply, all that's going to change on the side of the town is adding a box to the end of the inspection sticker, an inspection sheet saying, are they in compliance with the plastic bags? Check, done. But how about the cost to the consumers? A lot of people think those plastic bags that you get at Shaw's are free. Well, they're not. And it's going to be a matter of shifting over to paper bags, and they do cost a little bit more. But you can also save money by bringing your own reusable bags. So, and then the inaction of today is going to be costing us more in the future. As we already see, we see climate change here at our doorstep. And if we take no action today or in the next year or so, who knows what these costs are going to cost your grandchildren and their grandchildren. So I quickly went through and I went on to websteront.com and I looked at how much it costs for a polystyrene cup. It costs about 4 cents per cup. Under the bylaw, we say paper cups is the way to go. A paper cup is about 4 cents per cup, And that nice little sleeve so you don't burn yourself is an extra 3 cents. So altogether, it's 4 cents. The breakdown rate for this is 20 years, whereas the styrofoam may take a while, perhaps years, before breaking down. And this was actually, these figures come from the Boston Globe, who did a really great, intensive look at styrofoam cups versus paper cups. Polystyrene containers. So when you go get your takeout, they say it's about 8 cents per container. Whereas the paper container doubles in costs. Polystyrene, if you go get your ice cream served, it's about 6 cents per container. And if you purchase a paper container for your ice cream, it's only 7 cents. Plastic bags are about 6 cents per bag. And for this particular paper bag that's 100% recyclable and post-consumer, it's 18 cents per bag. So what does that really mean to me, the consumer? Well, let's just take a snapshot of your week. If you get a coffee every day, the cost and the difference from the bylaw is 4 cents. So 7 days a week, I go get my cup of coffee in a single-use cup. It's going to cost me, the consumer, only 28 cents more each week. If you bring a reusable cup or thermos, you actually save money. Dunkin' Donuts will give you 15 cents off on your coffee, saving you $1.05 per week. If you have a take-home container, it's going to cost you 8 cents more on top of your tab at the end of the night. And if you bring your own Tupperware, it's not going to cost you anything more. And if you go to the grocery store, you use 10 bags at the supermarket, the cost difference is 12 cents per bag. And that's going to cost you $1.20 more each week. But if you bring your own reusable bag, it's not going to cost you anything. And if you decide to treat yourself on those hot summer nights and go get an ice cream, that styrofoam container or the paper container is 1 cent more. But if you want to be reusable and get a cone, it's no cost more. So,
not quite reusable, but you can
well,
get the
not
cone.
reusable, right. So basically, with these bylaws, it's only going to cost a person that meets this demographic $1.57 more each week. And if you decide to use a reusable materials or a cone that you just eat, you're actually going to save $1.05 per week. So in closing, back in November 17, 1984, New York Times did an article on paper versus plastic. And here we are in 2019. And my question for you is plastic or planet? So that's all I have for the presentation. And now let's hear from you.
I have just a quick question. There was a hearing today at the State House on a ban for plastic bags, which would be statewide. So they heard all the information today, and the plan is to implement something by August 21st of this year. So it would override anything that any of the towns have done in terms of bylaws or articles that they've passed to date. So the plastic bag ban may be taken out of our hands because the state will override it.
And does this reflect what Matt talked about tonight with the polystyrene?
The polystyrene was not part of it. Today what they discussed was just a plastic bag ban.
Okay.
And there was some question as to whether it would be the paper bags. Right now, by law, we can't charge for them, but if they change the law, we would be able to. It would be 10 cents a bag. The question is whether they were going to do 100% recycled as to 40%. But the state is working on that now.
Okay, so if we were to move forward as a town and institute this as one of our bylaws, then but we went statewide for plastic bags, that would sort of override this, but we would still have the polystyrene.
Right, because that's two separate articles.
Great.
It's two separate articles, yeah. And we wouldn't go to town meeting till October, so by then the state will have already passed a ban.
And can I just clarify that? It hasn't passed the House or the Senate or been signed yet.
Right.
There was a hearing to talk about it, and
Yes.
they had a bill last year that did not make it through. So we hope it would make it through, but
this
there's
year.
still the chance that they don't, and it would be good to have this.
So it's important for us to
Yeah,
still
I mean,
advocate
yes.
for this so that we can move forward in a progressive way.
Right.
Even if the state does not.
Any questions? Does anyone want to say anything?
More
I love
information?
Hi, Matt, I'll ask a question. Have you, oh, God, no. Were we on TV? Jim Hickey, Perry up. Have you ever brought in Tupperware to a restaurant?
I have.
To-
I have. I
Have
do
you?
consistently.
I don't go out to eat often enough to, I usually eat everything that they bring over. I just want to make sure.
You don't worry about leftovers.
I've heard the comments, and I just want to make sure that, and I don't want to say, we're going to be on the forefront of this or anything like that, but like Mary Ann said, there's a chance that the state may not pass. And like Melissa said, I want to make sure that we're pushing this forward, and to get the word out there and not wait on the state. And then whatever the town of Hanson does, if the state passes it and would supersede what we have, that's great. But I don't want to wait for the state.
Right, so that's why it's important just to keep on going forward. So, and then hopefully in the fall, we'll take a vote on it.
So, go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
If the state does pass the ban, the Board of Health will have to create, in the town, we have to create a bylaw equal to or greater. We can't have a bylaw less than what the state regulation would be. So as far as the perspective from the Board of Health, we have to be equal to or greater. We adopt this. Move forward. think about
That's
that.
if it's proposed by the Board of Health. This is proposed by the Board of Selectmen.
So I think my question was, and I watched at home one of the Selectmen's meeting where you guys talked about this. So you had mentioned that the bylaw that was originally proposed was a little aggressive.
It wasn't that it was aggressive, there was a lot of mistakes, things that you can't do, like one of the things it said in the article was that you would charge for a bag, and we can't, by law we
Okay.
can't. Only cities can, towns can't. So it wasn't that it was a misrepresentation, it's something that we couldn't do by law. I made little notes, so there are certain things that were written in here, and I had questions about different descriptions. I would rather see that we really educate people about bringing reusable bags. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't ban plastic, but there should be education that people really should begin to do reusable bags. The only thing I didn't like about what the state's proposing is they were proposing bags, I think, without handles. But there was something in it about not using plastic or polyvinyl, but I haven't had a chance to look at that.
But then also to go back to what the draft said,
Yes.
it said utensils and lids and all that stuff. Abington, I believe they passed the expanded polystyrene, so you were still able to use your utensils and whatnot, but there's the polystyrene rigid, which is any and all plastic. So there are more aggressive polystyrene out there, but I think that would bankrupt small businesses here in town, and I wouldn't want to do that at all.
So truthfully, I would rather the aggressive, but I think my question, where I was sort of going with it is, so do you feel like after sort of these tweaks that were made, is this bylaw ready to go for the October town meeting, or is that something you guys are still working on?
I don't know that it's been
evolving with?
tweaked. Have there been any changes to
Yeah, no,
this?
it hasn't been changed yet, but I think one of the things was the Board of Health and Board of Selectmen were going to sit down and come up with something that everyone felt comfortable with moving forward. So.
I have a question. Even though I'm 110% for this, how are local businesses feeling? Are you guys getting any feedback from it?
Yes.
I've not personally.
Okay.
I've spoke to a couple of small businesses here in Hanson. Mixed results. Some people say we're moving forward. Like we're the Dunkin' Donuts as a corporation. They're moving to paper cups. Shaw's, they said, well, it's just a matter of time for us. They were kind of resistant, but they just said it's just a matter of time before it's become a state law. And a couple other businesses, they were just nervous about the old aggressive bylaw that said no more forks, no more knives, no more straws. But now that we've clarified that, they said, oh, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought. So I'll be working with a couple of small businesses personally, just to make sure and show them that it is feasible and, you know, it's okay to pass on that cost to consumers, that extra 7 cents or whatever it may be. So,
Are you talking about the bags?
polystyrene,
No.
yeah, but the bags as well, you know, I mean, it just is, everyone's just, it's a matter of time.
I have to say, I love the polystyrene ban because as a mom, I feel much more comfortable with my kids' food going into the paper containers than the polystyrene. As soon as we get home, because I do not bring Tupperware with us to the restaurant, but as soon as we get home, I transfer it into one of our glass or stainless steel containers because the idea of like what could be seeping into their food just from sitting there freaks me out. So I love that that is included in the bylaw for Hanson. I think that's great. And we frequent the Hanson restaurants.
I work late.
You're gonna have to invite Jim.
Melissa, with young children?
With young children.
I have a question. I'm here more for the litter aspect, I think, like a lot of us are. I appreciate that the items we're using would be breaking down faster, like a paper bag, which is great. But that really doesn't help the homeowners in a sense because the paper bag is still going to sit outside my house for 20 years.
And the paper bag is also going to increase what you're getting rid of.
Correct.
And your recycling, which you're
Correct.
having problems paying for getting rid of
Yes,
recycling
and
now.
I know Arlene, we've talked about that. Yes. So I guess my question isn't necessarily forum directly related to this, but
Right.
is there a combined effort to addressing what honestly is becoming an issue with litter in town as a result of whatever things we're using to take home food or drinking coffee from? Because I think a lot of us have gotten Green Hanson every year. It's the same stuff on the road.
But it's
coffee
usually
cups
nips.
and nips.
It's nips, hundreds and hundreds
Well,
of
I mean,
nips.
I would go down my street, which is Home Street, by the way, and I clean it until I had shoulder surgery pretty much every month, and I could fill up 2 to 3 trash bags every 3 weeks with just Dunkin' Donuts and nips, like you said, beer cans. But
And plastic.
again, going from plastic
water
bags,
tickets.
yeah, going from plastic bags to and cigarettes, going from plastic bags to paper, and going from styrofoam cups to paper doesn't address that issue. And I wonder
It
if you
does
guys had any
not.
thoughts about that at all. That's all.
Yeah, no, right at the moment, you know, I haven't really thought of the litter aspect of what we can do more often. I know that enforcement of littering
Yeah.
doesn't really exist, unfortunately, but maybe that's something that we can all look into and see if there's a solution that we can.
Well, I guess my point is, if you're going
With
down the
cans, you'd be
education,
getting rid of at least
yeah, if you're
the
going down
Dunkin'
the
Donuts cups and the plastic bags.
yeah, I guess my point is to your point, Arlene, before, if you're going toward the education piece of it, and there's
Yes.
time obviously to do this,
Yes.
maybe that should be part of it. Is my point, like combine those efforts.
Right.
And
That's all.
pushing the reusable stuff
Yes.
more
Yes.
than the paper.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Mary Ann Damasio, I'm wondering maybe if there's a committee forming in town that might be saying, let's, you know, it's great if the town does it, but then it's great if other people get involved too. Every time we do Green Hanson cleanup,
It's the
it's
same 20
great,
people.
but it's like, all right, what's the next step?
It's only
and how
one
do we-
day.
Yeah, and how do
And
we get it?
everything's accumulated over a year.
Yeah, how do we get it from not happening? So it seems like it would be great to, you know, you're talking about education, but also seeing if we can get any grants to get some reusable bags. I'm concerned about the restaurants going from styrofoam to plastic. You know, handing out, there's so many plastic containers that people use. I have a bunch in my house. I buy some things. I keep on thinking about, there's more plastics now because there's so much food that you can buy. So anyway, I think it's just helping to make people aware, and maybe there's a little Hanson social media campaign or,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
I just have a question, because I don't know about, would restaurants allow you to bring in your own Tupperware?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know
That,
why
I
they
would,
they're not.
There's nothing they can really say
Yeah.
about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's my personal property.
And
I
I-
keep it in my purse, and then when I go to leave, I just scoop it in and
Yep.
take it out.
Yeah, they wouldn't take it
Yeah,
back
it's
and
something-
put it
No,
for you,
right,
but
right.
they're okay with you putting it in
Yeah.
yourself.
And I believe a lot of restaurants have that practice where they won't actually put your food in the container. They
A
have-
lot of
but
them
you
don't.
can do it
Transfer
yourself.
it.
Which makes
sense.
So I think that
Yeah, that's
sort
a
of
health
falls
issue.
under the same idea of bringing your own containers in. It's just
So those are two campaigns, bring your own bags and bring your own containers.
So, asking a question about the education. So and I've heard this a lot. Like we need to educate. So what are the plans for educating the town of Hanson and the people about this? Like how is the Board of Health moving forward, or how is the Board of Health and the Selectmen board? How are people moving forward with this education piece that we're talking about?
We haven't really talked about it yet, but one of the things we could actually do is we could do a show on cable. We could do something in the newspaper. We could look at a grant, whether or not DEP would give us money. I've been sort of keeping up with their stuff. We might be able to get money from them to actually give out bags.
That's
And have an event
Yeah.
where we could, get signs that say, bring your bags. Because I've been to stores where I've seen signs that the stores put up, bring your recyclable bags, bring your own bags.
Right.
And I think if we start doing that now, people will have heard it enough over the past 6-8 months
Sure.
to start thinking about it and remembering, oh yeah, I got the bags in the car, let me go back and get them. I got to the habit where I would not go in the store and shop. I actually had to go home to get my bags. But I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Melissa. I had a little sidebar here with Mary Ann, and we do have Hanson Day 2019 coming up. And Green Hanson will have a table, and they're hoping.
Well, this is the last few seconds we talked about this. You can just have a table, it doesn't have to be
Yes.
Green
Put her
Hanson.
on the spot.
Yeah. We're hoping that Green Hanson will have bags available for the
Oh, I don't
people.
know about that.
Does somebody have money
We've been working on it.
for bags?
Pass a cup, paper cup.
No,
But having a table at Hanson Day is great.
Having the table is great, but I don't know, we would have to figure out a way of where we could get the money
I wonder if
to
there's
buy the bags.
a company
Or
that would
local
like
companies.
maybe Noonan. They get trash here in town, and that might be somebody to reach out
Actually,
to. and
Walker
say-
Clay is very big
Walker
into
Clay, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Clay is
Cleaning up.
very big into that. But maybe some of the trash companies that come in and pick up the trash and possibly add to the litter that's in town. Maybe this is a positive contribution that can be made to the townspeople, where they donate bags and they can free advertising for them, and people get reusable bags out of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Excellent. Yes, Gil.
Okay, for those who don't know me yet, my name's Golden Mountain Board of Health. I'm appalled that there's nobody here tonight. I mean, I've kind of backed away from looking at this and everything, and it kills me. I mean, I've been on the Board
He
of Health.
thought that more people would be interested in what's
I've been on the Board
happening.
of Health 35 years now, all right? And this is sickening. Here we are proposing something that is gonna benefit, ages to come, generations. And how many people here are here, And,
14.
and also another thing,
Are you
the
counting
stuff you're gonna replace,
Including Carol.
you're not gonna change the litter. That plastic bag is gonna be replaced by a paper bag, and the styrofoam cup's gonna be replaced by a paper cup. So, I mean, education is good, but, the town's gotta go far greater than that. The litter's bad, and that's all adds to the environmental pollution. So I think, it's, if you're gonna start, we've been proactive with recycling 100 years, but
Right.
it's gotta start going further. And it's
So we
not
have to
gonna go
start talking
further
to
with
people
14
about the
people
litter.
sitting in this room.
Can I interject that?
Sure.
And you have a very good point, sir. People don't care. And I find like I talk about it like at work or outside of work, not my problem. They don't see it, they don't see the grand scheme of things. So it's like it's not their problem, and I'm getting upset about it.
And is it part of the convenience? They're not gonna do
I don't
anything
know.
that's gonna inconvenience
I hate to
them?
say
I think
maybe,
it's laziness.
I hate to say ignorance, but it's like, I think people don't care. They don't see it, so it's, I don't know what it is, and I think that's why this is like this.
I think it's one of those things that becomes, well, somebody else can take care of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my husband said, and we're I'll give this to him. He's sort of the crazy guy on our street that goes up and down and literally cleans up our road. And it's on people's front lawns, and they come out and they're like, hey, thanks. They can't bend
But
over and
and
pick
they
up
don't
their
take
own
a turn?
trash.
Like,
Do you know what I mean? Like, but I think it becomes like, well, somebody else will take
Just
care of
doing
it.
it.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? I think
Somebody's
that's
doing
sort of the
it. Yeah,
mentality.
it's
And we
someone
need to
else's
get back
problem.
into like pride of ownership. This is your property. It
And
doesn't
maybe
matter
the-
if it's the woods. Pick up your trash.
But I would piggyback on that a little bit more, like to Gil's point. Like, yes, there's 14 people here, but is there anybody here a representative of any business at all in town?
Right.
Probably not, right?
No.
And
the trade.
again, I'm gonna just I know I'm TV, so I'll try to be nice, but it's the same stuff that we're cleaning up all the time. And if you're making money on the people in the town, these businesses aren't leaving. They're making money here. They're not gonna just up and leave. It's sort of their responsibility too to take the onus and to say, okay, this is a problem that we need to deal with too. And where are they in the community? Has anybody reached out to any of them? Maybe you have, I just don't know. I mean, that's also part of the education aspect of it, I think.
Somebody else was gonna
Can I
say
make a
something.
comment, Matt?
Yes, Mr. Hickey?
Because I'm not gonna be as nice as Adam. There are 14 people in this room. We're gonna have another forum, an educational forum on this. There might be 18, but of those 18, these 14 will be here again, I'm sure. The one comment that I heard tonight that I like the most, and it has got nothing to do with plastic bags or styrofoam cups, it's your cell phone. You plug it in every night so the next day it's ready to go. This is gonna happen, whether people are sitting here or not. It's gonna happen, and they're gonna get used to it. And that's gonna be it. They're gonna either bring their own mug, or they're gonna get a paper cup when they get their coffee. Because it's gonna happen, whether it's 14 or 18. Because you're still plugging your phone in every night, so it's ready the next morning.
Did you have a comment?
I did. It was backtracking a bit to the education piece. I think that a large part of education is kind of lost on adults, and that realistically, a good way to focus it would be on younger kids and children. My household didn't recycle until in middle school I insisted upon it, and like that's how we started recycling.
And I don't know if our schools recycle. It's something I have to look into.
A lot of schools recycle, but it all goes to the
They have
trash.
the containers, they
No,
just
but
don't.
there's
They have recycling bins, but then the kids aren't educated enough to do it because I work in schools. I've worked with kids for like
this,
over a decade.
I went to a conference last week, and
Yeah.
DEP has a program that is educational for the classroom.
Yeah.
I just don't know if Hanson
I
is in it.
doubt it.
So I brought back a
No
flyer.
offense.
Because I have never heard about recycling, but this starts at the little grades.
Absolutely.
And teaches the kids, and it's a group effort, and it's educational, and so that then they, all the way up, will recycle. I don't know if
Yeah.
Whitman Hanson recycles
Well, I think
at
it's
all.
something that would be really beneficial to invest in and to focus the education efforts on, because like you teach one kid that like the balloons from his birthday party are like killing birds and sea turtles, and then
Right.
like they're insisting that that doesn't happen, or like you're in charge of making sure mom brings the bags to the grocery store every
Yes.
time you guys go. And that becomes like a duty and a job, and kids love to get jobs. Like they live
Because
for
there
it.
might be a
Until they're
reward in
10.
the end.
Every time I have an issue child, it's just like, do you want
Yes.
to put this away for me? Hey, can you bring this to the trash? And then they're busy all day long. And it's something that I think if you refocus the efforts on lower ages, and that's something that could kind of build and bloom outwards.
Yep.
And so many thoughts going through my head. It's so great to hear so many people talking about this. So I was thinking maybe it would be nice to have a web page that is like Hanson Pride, or Hanson, not Pride because there are other meanings to that, but something about Hanson cleans up or Hanson whatever, and have it as a spot where people can post little videos, or here's what we're doing in our schools, here's what, here's the ideas, put your presentation up there, but use it as a community kind of.
You could actually use it to do cleanups. On this day, on this Saturday, we're gonna be cleaning up this street. And maybe a month later, it's a different street or a different area. And you could plan those out so that people that are interested and available could go that day and help clean up. And then maybe get more people to come and do it.
Yeah, but also use it for the whole,
For the- yes.
the education
Education
about those
piece.
bags. And I know the high school recycles with the student club called Seek. They
Mhm.
recycle all the bottles.
but that's it.
And the paper.
And the paper?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah, when I
that's
was
if
in
it gets
Seacon
picked
High
up.
School, it was just paper. I don't know if they've moved to bottles as well now.
Yeah, we moved,
Yeah.
when I was running charge of Seek.
I mean, I'm not in Seek, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But yeah, no, they did recycle plastic bottles, we did recycle paper, but one of the problems was recycled paper dropped in the markets, and the Abitibi, which was the company that would come pick it up, they stopped picking it up because it was starting to cost them money.
Right.
So that's part of the problem. Is it's a global problem, it's America's problem, and the recycling markets aren't quite there to make it lucrative as it once was. And then the other sad part of it too, I don't know, and you can inform me because I haven't been at the school in 10 years or so, is do you guys still use styrofoam trays at lunch?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So 1,200 students, if they partake
Every
in
day.
lunch, every day, 1,200 styrofoam trays go into the trash. And I believe that we did purchase a dishwasher as taxpayers when we built up the new school.
And the styrofoam's probably not going in the dishwasher.
No.
Well, is that something that will be affected by the bylaw? Will they be forced to?
That's something that we'll have to look into
That's a
because it's a
Whitman.
Whitman.
Because it's
Hanson.
Whitman and Hanson, and I think even the state, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But it's sad to hear that that's still happening.
Absolutely.
But I think that's a very interesting point, is everybody's talking about the education. And I remember, to date myself, back in the 70s, when I was in high school, we were having these exact same discussions in school. I was taught this in school. And I know my kids were taught it in school 20 years later. My grandkids are learning it in school now. But the problem that I'm finding is that people are so busy that they are too busy to come to a place like this. The people who are here, we've all bought into this already.
A long time ago.
Right. But the people who are not here are the people who don't want to do it, who don't want us to infringe on their right to have plastic bags. They don't want, those are the things that people were arguing about. That's what I was hoping to hear tonight. I
Right.
was hoping to hear from people
I
saying, this is what I
actually heard
don't
from one
want.
person who said she did not want to back the ban because she uses the plastic bags.
Right. And I guess that's really where I'm at right now, is I'm trying to figure out what we can do as a group to move this forward so that people who haven't bought in, who have already decided that they don't want change in their lives are already too complicated. They're used to using the bags all the time, they use them, for whatever reasons, and because if they're there, you're gonna use them. Change doesn't happen through the individual learning. Change happens at the top when people say, okay, I'm gonna cut your landlines, even if you don't have a cell phone now, you're gonna have to start getting one.
Right.
There's always gonna be people, the Luddites from back when don't change until they're forced to do it. I mean, just think of the incandescent light bulbs. People didn't wanna give those up, but it's like, no, you can't make them anymore. So that's what we're talking about here. We have to do this, in my opinion, at a much higher level. And I love the fact that the polystyrene is in there because I think that drives me crazy as well. I hate paper cups because they have the plastic lids on them anyway, so I'm totally against that.
And
So
I really don't eat out enough because I don't get paper cups.
I
make my own tea at home and that's it.
Well, I do that too, but I mean, it's a habit, and I still haven't, I've bought into this for decades. And I have gone back and forth with bringing my own containers and not bringing them. I used to always bring my cup when I went to get coffee. I don't do that anymore, but I don't know why. When did I stop? I've got them. And, so it's just one of those things that it's a constant educational battle, even for people like us who have already bought into this. So again, I'm just concerned about moving forward.
Kind of piggybacking a little bit off of that and what Mr. Hickey said, one of the things that I especially liked from the information here is that this bylaw here basically does incentivize people to change and their own behaviors. I know 6 months ago I would have been that ambivalent supportive, but as I'm going in now, I support the bylaw right now and how it doesn't, the main thing here is changing behaviors and really reevaluating what can be done in in lieu of this, of what's being proposed.
Excellent. All right, any closing thoughts?
I do.
Yes, Mr. Hickey?
Show up at town meeting and have all your friends show up at town
Yes,
meeting. It's
yes.
that simple.
Yes.
That's how we win. The people that don't want to change are gonna have to change. You know, that's it.
To Jim's point, it's gonna come anyway. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. We're gonna have to like figure out. Yes, I agree.
Even if it
Support
doesn't
it.
come from us, the
Yeah,
state is
it's
gonna
gonna come.
It's
It's-
coming, it has to.
It's more about like I think a lot of us are in agreement. It's more about the educational piece that we're more concerned with.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's clean up the town.
Clean up the town, but
That's
how
it.
do we get the people that are not doing it now to buy into the importance of what needs to happen?
That's the world. That's the Matt said it. It's a worldwide problem. Like
Yeah.
the United States is the leader in a lot of this stuff, and
Yes,
still,
it is.
it's not going to affect anybody in Asia. They're not doing this, and in Russia and all these other countries, especially Western Europe, Africa. They're not recycling. So
They've done it
It's-
years ago.
how much do
They've
you?
gotten rid of the plastic bags.
My point
years
is like
ago.
how much can you do in certain areas to affect everything? And I'm more of an
Right.
isolationist. I believe in at least if nothing else, and for anybody who's watching who would ever be against this, which I can't imagine they would be, is look at it from a personal standpoint. Like what Melissa said before, it's on your property, litter is. It affects your home values. You know, so forget about the expenses that Matt so eloquently stated tonight, breaking all these things down to pennies. But like, if a bunch of trash is on your house, on your lawn, you're trying to sell it, guess what? You're probably selling it for thousands of dollars less. So it might make sense to just spend the penny and throw it in a recycle bin, right? So I guess that's sort of where I would stand.
Okay.
Excellent. And the final thought of the night is come on out on Clean Up Green Up on April 27th here at Town Hall at 9 a.m. Right, Mary Ann? 9 a.m. So, all right, we hope to see you there and stay tuned. You know, I mean, I hope to do a couple of more seminars throughout the summer as we approach fall about waste in general. Where's it going from Hanson, as well as more on the plastic bags and polystyrene.
And there's a meeting this Sunday.
All right.
Which give a plug to Green
Thank you.
Hanson.
Yes.
Yes.
A Sunday morning meeting at 9:30 at Coletta Cutler Realty, which is where I work. It's right behind Shaw's. So yes, please show up.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Carol.
That's it. We definitely have to work on